As you've seen throughout the program, there are many organizations working to fight food insecurity in Massachusetts. Project Bread is a nonprofit in East Boston that connects communities to reliable sources of food and advocates for policies that make food more accessible. They partner with more than 800 anti-hunger, anti-poverty organizations throughout the state. And joining us now are their Director of Program Communications, Miriam Avila, and Senior Director of SNAP Outreach Programs, Kara Burns. Thanks to you both for joining us. So Project Bread's motto is change, not charity. Explain what that means and why it's important. Kara, let's start with you.
Yeah, so basically, change, not charity. We want people in Massachusetts to understand that accessing food across the state, we're making it accessible to folks across the state, is not looked at as charity. It is, more of a hand up. We know that people across the state are struggling at this time to actually put food on the table, and we want people to know that, help and resources are available to them.
So Miriam, talk a little bit about how you do connect food insecure communities with the resources that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a number of programs that we work on, working with schools to connect students and families to school food, and then also connecting families to federal nutrition programs like SNAP, which can provide them with money to buy their own groceries, so they're not relying on charity. They can purchase their own foods. And so Kara, as director of our hotline and our SNAP outreach programs, really helps connect individuals that are calling into the hotline seeking assistance, helps them apply for SNAP. And then we also have a statewide awareness campaign where we're really trying to raise awareness around these programs and help families just know that they're available.
Kara, you're on the hotline every day. What are people and families saying to you?
Yeah, especially now during this time, Karen, last year actually we spoke with so many families that were impacted by COVID alone. A lot of people lost their jobs. People that had children were, home all day with their kids. So that was another meal they had to worry about providing for their child or children in the home. And on the hotline, we're hearing from families every day that are still continuing to struggle simply because of, in their opinion, the lack of resources that are available, but also the lack of awareness around the SNAP program. And so the hotline has been a resource for Massachusetts to let callers know what resources are available to them and to also let them know about the SNAP program and to help destigmatize some of the barriers that a lot of people are facing.
We have some graphics to share with the audience. Hunger has been a pervasive problem in Massachusetts long before COVID-19. Pre-pandemic, 1 in 11 households experienced food insecurity. In December 2020, numbers nearly doubled as 1 in 6 households across the Commonwealth were food insecure, disproportionately impacting communities of color, with 1 in 3 Black and Latinx households struggling with enough to eat. Those numbers have gotten just a little better this year, but they still need improvement. And in fact, let's talk about a report that Project Bread was involved in with UMass. It's called The Barriers to SNAP. I know one of the things that you guys are trying to do is destigmatize SNAP benefits. It used to be called food stamps, now it's called SNAP benefits. Talk about that that report. We'll start with you and then talk about efforts to destigmatize SNAP. Tell us about the report.
Yeah, so we did a report last year in the fall, and we surveyed more than 1,500 residents across Massachusetts, just really understanding, their food insecurity, if they were food insecure, if they knew about SNAP, and what some of the barriers to SNAP access were for them. And so what we found was that, more than 80% of respondents did indicate that they had food insecurity in the past year, but only about a third knew about SNAP. And so there's a big discrepancy in, the folks that could be using this program and those that know about it. And then there's also a lot of barriers to accessing SNAP. So for example, a lot of folks didn't realize that they weren't taking money away from other folks who might need it more. There's a big concern that if you're accessing SNAP, you're taking money away from someone that might need it. But really SNAP can expand to fit anyone that needs it. And then there's also, of course, a lot of stigma. There's concerns about the application process. There's a lot of, among immigrant communities, there's a lot of concern about immigration and applying for government assistance.
So let's clear up some of the myths about SNAP. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things we hear on the hotline is that, I'm not eligible simply because, I have children in my home or because I'm a single individual. And the hotline staff, we work diligently on making sure that we're, busting some of those myths and getting people to understand that, SNAP, although there are certain rules and regulations that are applied to the program, we're available to help answer those questions. There are a lot of people that are not too familiar with the SNAP program and some of the guidelines that do, follow with the program. But our hotline counselors are trained in SNAP. We are up to date on any of the changes that are happening with the program. So when you call into our Food Source hotline, you can speak with a live hotline counselor that can pre-screen you. So we do follow, a list of questions that we will ask anyone that's interested in applying, about their household status, immigration status, their household size. There are, a few different additional questions that are asked. And then we'll let them know if they are eligible for SNAP benefits.
The Food Source hotline is 1-800-645-8333.
Yes.
How do you get people past being embarrassed about applying for SNAP benefits?
I think it goes hand in hand with that first initial contact they have with a hotline counselor, and just trying to get them to feel a little bit comfortable. And I think that's why it's so helpful to have a resource such as the hotline where you can speak with the live person and actually have those questions answered. So I think it's just about building that trust with the actual caller.
And you say you ask them about their immigration status, but how do people react when you ask them about that? I think, would people be a little wary of that conversation?
Oh, for sure, yes. There are households that, may have someone in the home that will not necessarily qualify just based on their immigration status, and they're worried about some of the stigma that's attached to, well, what's going to happen if I do apply? Is that going to impact, me becoming a citizen later on? And that's why, again, the hotline is that resource to help kind of build that trust with the caller and let them know about, some of the recent changes, with policy. That's another big thing that Project Bread is actively involved in, is just policy change. There was the public charge that affected a lot of households. And so it just kind of goes back to building that trust with the caller and getting them to understand and listen to a lot of the changes that have.
But it's important to note that there's no connection between your immigration status and your ability to get SNAP benefits.
Yeah, in most cases, there's no connection with that. I mean, although the SNAP program does look at immigration status in some cases, but for the most part, it's not something that would have a serious impact for many people if they are looking to apply.
Miriam, this report was very revealing. What was one of the most surprising things for you that came out of the report?
I think honestly for me, the most surprising thing was just the concern that people have about taking benefits away from other folks, and really made it clear to us that we need to really raise awareness and address these misconceptions in all of our work that we're doing, so that people know that they can apply and they will not be taking anything away.
We've been talking about lots of statistics today and the pervasiveness of food insecurity. How long do you think it'll take to get back to pre-pandemic numbers?
I mean, I think it's hard to say. We are seeing a decline in numbers a little bit, from the height of the pandemic, but these things change constantly. I think, they could go right back up. And it's also important, something that we say a lot at Project Bread, is that we can't just go back to pre-pandemic numbers, because that still wasn't good enough. We are trying to eradicate hunger completely, and that's going to take a while, but that is our goal.
Because pre-pandemic, there was still food insecurity.
Yes, absolutely.
It's that it's escalated during the pandemic. So do you think it's ever going to be possible to get it down to zero?
I think it's possible. There's a lot. Again, we have to make systemic changes. We really need to have, policy change and just have the political will for, solutions to address hunger. Definitely, that's what we strive for. We believe that it is possible to end hunger. It's just going to take a lot of work.
So very quickly, tell us about your advocacy work and what you're campaigning for right now.
So right now, our policy team is working on a legislation that would provide free school meals for all children, because we know that, starting with students and with children is really the best way to address food insecurity. And we really can't get to ending hunger for all if we don't start with feeding kids.
All right. And very quickly, the last word to you. If you're interested in supporting Project Bread, How can you do it?
So there are a couple of different ways. So you can, if you know anyone that is struggling with food insecurity, they can go to our website, www.projectbread.org/gethelp. And you can also visit our social media handles, Twitter,
There's a
Facebook.
lot.
Yes, there are a
Okay.
lot.
All right. There's lots of ways to reach out.
Yes.
Okay, Kara and Miriam, thank you so much for being here today to tell us about Project Bread. And thanks to you all for watching today. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Cityline 5. And you can follow me on Twitter at Karen Holmes Ward. Have a good afternoon. Stay safe and be well.